Hey hui. Welcome all. Thank you for your patience today as we have been sitting through a few other briefings and it's a bit chaotic. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of our manuhiri, our guests and partners in the room. I have a long list of acknowledgements. So Murray from Wellington City Mission, Stephen from DCM, Leslie from Te Aropa Trust online. We've got Chris and Lorraine from First Retail. We've got Diane from Victoria University. We've got people from the Y, we've got Ed from Chamber of Commerce, we've got MSD, we've got Hapaiake, and internally, teams from Economic Wellbeing and Connected Communities, so Anna, Prak, Melissa, Jala, and David. I've probably missed somebody off there. It's just because we were running around grabbing all the names on one piece of paper. But just first of all, a big mahi to such an amazing amount of cross-community mahi, and I want to acknowledge the amount of work that has gone into this, and in particular Councillor Paul for all the advocacy and sort of staying close to the ground on this stuff. So let's go through the report and then we'll take some questions, and then there will be an opportunity to kind of have a kōrero with some of our partners. Cool.
O kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ko hae o gā tōku ingoa, and I have the privilege of leading this program of work, the Pōneke Promise. I would like to invite you to, there we go. Can I also introduce, of course, Clara Beitenmoser, who is our program manager for this program of work, and I've got Murray Edridge here. We sometimes, when we present this mahi, we do a bit of a tag team effort in some of the conversations that we have in hui about town, and so Murray and I always normally have Dean Sylvester with me from the New Zealand Police also speaking to this. He's another major partner of ours. Unfortunately, he's unwell today and wasn't able to make it, but I have got a massive group of partners behind me as well who can come and fill in the gaps to anything that I can't answer. And I was just talking to Councillor Chung just before, if there are any questions around the data that we've presented today that I can't answer or that none of the team can answer, we definitely will try to come back to you. But I hope to show you where we've been, how we've done it, what we're doing, and then essentially now where we're at. So if I can take you now and invite you to take a trip down memory lane to a couple of years ago, where we had quite a lot of activity and we heard a lot from our community. And I want to acknowledge again Councillor Paul, and at the time there was Councillor Fitzsimons on the ground, and many of us around this table and in the community, having quite a few conversations and community hui around some scary stuff. An alliance, the Wellington Alliance Against Sexual Violence, took to the street with a number of other community members to really press upon our city leaders that something needs to be done to address what's happening down our main part of town in our city centre. And of course the photo there of the two students, Ella and Sophia, who presented their survey findings to the council, which were quite alarming at the time, and still are. Actually, every time I look at those data sets, I am scared, and thinking about the people who have experienced those situations. So we heard a lot, and I won't go through and read these bullet points. You can read them for yourself. We've also made, of course, the slide deck available to you to read at your own time as well, because there's a lot there. But yes, please skip down to the next one. We also heard, so apart from the survey, we also heard and saw what was happening on the ground and what was happening in terms of, and we collect different data sets. So we have there some statistics there around people feeling the feeling of safety in the city dropped from 76% down to 57% in that wonderful annual resident monitoring survey, and then the quality of life survey, all those kind of stats really giving us a lot to sober up on and really take a look at what's going on and what we can do. So in light of that, and as you will recall, we took action and a social contract was promised, and we called it the Pōneke Promise. This is not what we do. So the Pōneke Promise is a social contract with our partners. We are a group of leaders this is a group of leaders, community leaders, facilitated by the City Council. We bring together people who are interested and know that they can make change or want to find opportunities together to make some sort of change on the ground. I put Batman there because often when something happens downtown, there's this kind of question of, well, what is the council doing about that? So, hi, what's happening downtown? Why are people sleeping rough? Why is there an incident in town? What are you doing about that? And I wish that I could be like Batman, that I can see something in the clouds and then get my cape on and go, let's take to it, and then hide down the alley and take care of it myself. But I can't do that, and neither can all of us. But what we can do is work together differently and look at the levers that we can push together collectively, from internal to our business units and externally to our partners, to see what room we can make and what can we do in the space to make some improvements on the ground. So there's a quote there that talks about these issues, societal issues that contribute to some of the things that are happening that are not safe in our city. And these issues are not unique to us in Wellington. In fact, we're seeing them throughout the country every day. But what is unique is our approach. And we are the only local authority in this country that is taking an approach like this one to try to address some of these very complicated, very challenging situations. So what I'm asking, so this briefing is going to provide you with a lot of information, and I do want you to take it away and think about it, and get curious about what we're presenting and what is the information that we're giving to you and looking into ourselves. But also I'm asking you to look at it through the eyes of what we're trying to also judge the success of the program, because we are doing a lot, and there's a lot there. There's a lot there to work out what is the impact on the ground. So, what are the interventions that we are putting on the ground, and are they helpful? Are they changing things, or can we do something better? These are the kind of questions that we're asking ourselves through the program all the time. I'm sorry, the writing is just a little bit too small for me to remember off the top of my head. Are we using the right levers at a council level, but also with our external partners, to see if there's more that we can do? Are those interventions that we are going to show you, and actually there's a list in the book that we've handed out that like a list of all the things that we have achieved in the last 2 years. Are they effective? Are they, again, can we be more curious about them? Can we push the bar even higher, or put the boat out with around the parameters that we have? And are we putting the right lenses on the way that we work through, like, for example, the SEPTED approach that we use now? SEPTED, if anybody's not familiar with this really sexy way of what is it? I want to say it's this terminology. It's crime prevention through environmental design, and that's the lens that we use on when we look at redesigning open spaces and pavements and urban design. We can talk about that a little bit more. I won't read each of those boxes out because, you can do so yourself, but please come back to that if you have a question later. Thank you. I actually had this up on my laptop, but now I'm getting stuck into the paperwork. So this is a community-led initiative, and you'll see not only in this room are the partners that come together to meet with us regularly, but also there are more there that couldn't make it today. We set up the program quite formally, with sort of expectations and a structure around the way that we meet and facilitate the opportunities that could possibly come about. So in the first instance, we had the monthly partners meeting, whereby we got together with our partners. We went through we go through regular updates of what's happening on the ground from their eyes and their experiences and how we work together. And then we have regular workshops about what else can we do together in this space? Who can we connect people with to have those conversations come alive, or those initiatives come alive, and measure the success of those together? And then, of course, we do also, we have what we call interested stakeholders who I think they might be tuning in today, people like the Inner City Wellington group who meet regularly and that we meet with and have developed a really strong relationship to always always test our ideas with, and always really test our thinking about the way that we're delivering things on the ground, as they are our inner city neighbourhood. And of course, our regular presentations that I just touched on before with other key stakeholders and property developers to see if we can push those levers out any further. So, just really quickly, council committed 7.2 million right at the beginning in the LTP, and that was spread out around enhancing those improvements that we had already on the books and accelerating them, and then looking at ways that we can fund initiatives like the TAG 10 funding, which we knew could make an impact on the ground instantly. And that's the funding, answering that question there, unless anybody, if just putting that up front, that's where we're at right now. Right, so very quickly, we knew that we had to look into and really identify and call out that Te Aroha is the heart of the Pōneke promise. It is a place that is special not only to mana whenua but our people living in the city, and we knew that we needed to bring in mana whenua and descendants of the pā very early on to the conversations to make sure that whatever we design in this space is right, and the people that we have around the table are the right ones to talk about Te Aroha in a really constructive way and a sustainable one for the future. And we're really lucky to have had Leslie Brown come onto this program as a representative for our mana whenua and descendants of the pā, and connect with us firstly through the steering group that we set up internally to the council, and then into the partners level where he's helped us and our team facilitate wānanga with mana whenua. There's been a series of workshops and co-design consultations with our mana whenua around the aspirations of Te Aroha and how we can bring the mana back to this space for everybody to enjoy. We have Charlotta is actually here from the urban design team, and I'm sort of pausing to see if you wanted to add anything, or Leslie's online if they wanted to add anything to this part of the presentation, and if not, we can come back to it later to address any questions. Can I just check? No? All right, Leslie, did you want to add anything? Okay, all right. We might come back here. So here are just some of the illustrations of some of the outputs of these hui that will continue and have these really brave and really challenging conversations that I think have kind of been put off over time because they have been really hard, but we need to get serious about it with the right people, because there will be some change in this space, and we need to have the right people at the table to make sure that everybody can own it the right way. So we looked to improve the space, and we did that alongside our mana whenua, and also alongside the people who occupy that space in our business and our community. Te Aro Park has been a hotspot for a lot of these challenging situations, and we knew this from our data that I showed you quite briefly earlier in this presentation, but also we conducted that Te Aroha Assessing Harm report, where we got a lot of formal qualitative and quantitative information to move on, and that identified that we needed to make some changes to the landscape and the urban design and make some urban design upgrades to that space in Dixon Street and remove those toilets. We did that, and we celebrated that last year, and we continue to monitor the space and the use of that space. We do that with a lens on harm reduction, and we were lucky, just going to find my notes on this, to have Jala Lawrence join us from the Wellington Alliance to help give us expert advice on how to put a harm prevention lens on the work that we do. And with her advice, we were able to have our urban design specialists work with our harm prevention specialists when we're looking at the urban design space and putting initiatives in place there and looking to see what's needed to make improvements. So what Jala's been doing since then, as well as developing a strategy that will roll out across the different channels of our program to make sure that we continue to look at ways to prevent sexual harm in our city and harm reduction overall. There's a little bit more there around the sexual violence prevention. It's important. I'm calling it out because it's really important. And if you think back to what Ella and Sophia were asking for right at the beginning, they were asking for us to look and really focus on, highlighting and working on ways in which to empower our city and our retailers and our hospitality to train and inform people of how to prevent sexual violence in our city. We can speak about this a little bit later as well, but some of the training that we provide for hospitality and through our safer venues work looks at making sure that people are trained around identifying where sexual harm may be happening and intervening in that space. We have, again, a list of things that we're working through here, and this is the point that Dean from the New Zealand Police is going to chime in and give us a sense of what's happening in terms of the police patrols and partnering with our Hapaaki team. You may have some questions in the space, and I can come back to that if you want to, but as you can see, we are well connected between our community police, our Hapaaki team, our CCTV camera base, and all the partners around this table. And our street community. And I will actually invite Murray to speak at this point around Te Pāpuri, which I think he also spoke about to you about a couple of weeks ago. And also Stephen Turnock here from DCM is here and can join us.
Good afternoon. As the City Missioner, I get invited to join lots of conversations, and because there's so many conversations, I've become a bit more selective about what I choose to be part of. This conversation has been a priority for me. I don't need to remind you about how complex these issues are and what they represent for the city. I know, and it's been an evolving conversation, because I know in the early days one of my constant refrains, in fact they probably got sick of me saying it, is this isn't about keeping some of us safe from the rest of us. This is about keeping all of us safe, and what does that look like? Part of our commitment to that is the opening of Te Pāpuri, which as of the 1st of July this year, in about a month's time, will have been open for 2 years. Now, in that building currently are about 70 men who are some of our most difficult citizens, let's put it that way. And they have problems with addiction, they have problems with mental health, they have problems with violence. But they're cared for, and they're fed, and they're housed, and they're encouraged to start making positive changes. I don't want to name anybody in that building, but there's some of those names that will be very familiar to you. Some of them have been living on our streets for 10 years or more, who are now actually making progress, and we haven't yet got them independently and permanently housed, but that will be a place in the future. But we sit just as a single part of a significant network, and for me the beauty of this conversation, and increasingly we see it, is the partnerships that are coming out of it, the conversations we have with council, the conversations we have with New Zealand Police, the conversations we have with our retail colleagues. Sahai's made a big thing about this being unique, and for me this is very much a unique approach, because none of us stand alone in this space, because if we do we won't fix it. Now it doesn't mean we'll fix everything, it just means we're making progress towards a goal that should be an aspiration for all of us, and we're doing it in a way that nobody else is doing, and you should be very proud of that.
Thank you, Murray.
No, Murray. Stephen, did you want to add any extra points? Feel free to join us at the table as well. I think there's space if people wanted to come forward.
Kia ora, Steve Turnock, DCM. Just to, again, echo what Murray said, it's very much the same as applies to us, is that we're quite selective on what we want to be part of and what we see value in. Just to also add that in terms of our outreach program and representing a voice for the most vulnerable population in our city, I think it's very courageous of the Pōneke Promise to actually embrace that voice, want to hear it, and see it as part of the solution. There's quite a misconception amongst many people that this population are the perpetrators of quite an amount of problems in our city, where the actual fact is they're victims quite often, and victims of harm. And it is, really forward-thinking to see that voice to be part of the solutions in this group. So, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you, Stephen. So, one of our initiatives is around the Hapāaki team. I spoke about that before, who are connected also with the police, and also the Eyes On de-escalation training, which we do with the police for retailers and with First Retail. And I saw Chris and Lorraine there in the background, and I wonder actually if one of you wanted to come up and talk about that suite of training and the uptake from retailers. Sorry, Chris. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's right. Kia ora, team. So, yes, as they talk about, this is probably one of the most unique programs. We work across Australasia with cities and towns around guardianship programs. We're proud to be part of this and very humbled to be working alongside Murray, Stephen and Ruvi and their teams, because, we're just a very, very small part. But the work that we can do is by helping the businesses, those consumer-facing sectors, understand some of the challenges. I think that when Eyes On was first developed, it was really around crime reduction, but now it's moved more around welfare, around safety. So it's got a very strong focus on helping our consumer-facing partners, our businesses and the teams that there are within those businesses recognise some of the vulnerabilities amongst the communities, identify them and help understand who best to route those to be able to bring others into that conversation as well. So over 1,000 people have been through that training. So one-on-one training that we've been doing within the businesses, individual approaches for certain businesses like Moore Wilson's, Toy World, those types of larger operators, working with centres like the Old Bank, and bringing people into group training sessions. So businesses right through from small artisan businesses to the likes of Partridge Jewellers. So it's been great to bring those businesses together to develop that collaboration and to have people working in harmony, which is most necessary in the circumstances.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. All right. And of course, we have, from the beginning again with Te Aro Park and the Pōneke Promise, we knew that we needed to establish and put a presence for the Pōneke Promise in that space. And we established Te Wahi Awhina down the road to Pākapu Hapari, and a number of, certainly since the toilets came down, a number of different summer activations. You saw a photo up before around the chess festival, I don't know what to call it, competition, and various, we had yoga in the park, and we've had various activities that our community can participate in, which has been really great to see, especially in the fine weather we had over summer. Right, so we do collect, and I've had a number of questions from councillors. What does the data say? Have you made a difference? And we do have a number of data sets that we look at all the time to evaluate and to help inform us on what initiatives are working, what could we try to do better, or actually just be curious about what we could do in this program. So we have the CCTV observational data, we have the police victimisation data, First Retail provide us with the business evaluation and the spend data, and then there's also the observational study that we do with our Hapāaki team as well. And what does it say? It's a complicated picture. It's a really, really complicated puzzle, and we are one piece of it. And there are some insights there. And there is a nice trend. Now, did Pōneke Promise do that trend? Because it was nice for me to see. I can't tell you that hand on heart, but I can say that this is nice to see for now. Whether it will continue down this way, I don't know, but it's nice to see that there is some sort of movement in that space. So from you'll read that bullet point, there are fewer incidents of antisocial behaviour being identified by CCTV, and that's looking like a nice trend down. However, there's also some fewer alcohol brand breaches there in Te Aroha Park, and another nice trend downwards, incremental but nice over time. And then just to complicate things a little bit more, yeah, this is the police victimisation data, and boy, have we pored over this for a while, trying to again understand the picture of what's going on. And again, I just want to stress the fact that this is a very complicated challenge and puzzle for us, and we played just by one piece. So there are some sort of trends going up and then down and then spikes all over the place. But we can tell that there is all sorts of things happening there, but we know kind of that there are different movements and there's different influences in that space. And then, yeah, the fresh service data, Fix-It app or the call centre contact drops off, and then it sort of starts to kind of start a trend line sort of across. What would you call that, Clara? Sort of flat line. Yeah. So with all this data, to make sure that we can learn everything that we can learn about this program in the 2 years that we've rolled it out, we knew that this was a good time to review and do some qualitative analysis of what's going well and what we could do better for its future. So we did an independent an evaluation report, which is hot off the press today. We only got it off the print today, where I again ask you to go away and read that in your own time and come back with any questions, or if you would like to discuss this further with us, I'd be happy to do so. But we really wanted to get a really good sort of stake in the ground 2 years on to see what was working, and what can we learn from here, and there's a lot here. What we've learned, that there is a power here in the relationships that we've put together across the city. So internally, there's power in the relationships across the business of council, and we see that through the delivery. We call this the delivery group of council, where different representatives from different business units come together for a regular meeting when it comes to the rolling out of those different initiatives over time. So we have like the report back, what's going on, are there any barriers, do we need to pivot, how can we be more creative in this space, or can we just get on with it and do it? And then there's the partnership level across the city, whereby, as you can see, this group of people comes together regularly, connects more than monthly. I talk to Murray all the time. Dean's a regular on my hot dial, and then many members of the group behind me know how to get in touch and do so regularly if there are questions to be asked, if we need to look a little bit longer into one particular area, or if somebody has heard of another business who wants to join up and see if there's another opportunity to work on together. So that's a really great lesson for us. And as I just said before, this is a complex problem with multiple solutions and multiple pressures. And what I can say is the fact that we are working not only, again, in local government with this, but we're also using that voice in the Pōneke promise to have a voice at a central government perspective and look into things like the emergency housing review. These are great things that these are great opportunities that we have found through having the Pōneke promise connected up. I'll read again, I know that I don't want to read all these things one by one, but please do let me know if you have a question by any one of those lessons that we've outlined. And again, please read that paper in your own time. But one thing that I would like to highlight again is the perceptions of safety. Have they changed over the course of the program? And this, and we've put there in green of that wonderful residents survey that we discussed. I still have it etched in my memory from last year around, the fact that we aren't seeing a lot of movement here in terms of the perception of safety in the city. People have different experiences all the time, and I have those conversations. Councillor Chung, I had one with you recently. Calvert, we've had a couple of conversations, and Councillor Pennant as well, around how people feel the city is and whether it's safe to be there. And we have a lot more work to do here. It's undeniable. But there are obvious ways of addressing that, and we are doing our best to find those ways of addressing that. And this review sort of points those out, that the closer you are to the program, the more you see. But there are some communication issues and trying to make people more aware of the work that we're doing in behind the scenes to address some of those safety issues on the ground. So, where to from here? We have committed to stronger engagement with local businesses and residents, and Anna, now with the economic development team, has taken this on as well, and we've got the appointment of the new Central City Manager. We are reviewing our outcomes framework and the goals and what we want to achieve in this space as we move forward, and how we coordinate ourselves to advocate for the city with central government and others. And I wonder if that's a good segue for you to talk about Pōneke Promise 2.0.
Yeah, love a reinvention, love a makeover. No, I think one thing that we've learned as we're thinking about how to reinvigorate the city from an economic wellbeing strategic perspective in terms of what our economic wellbeing strategy outlines is obviously safety is an important pillar, but one thing we've learned from this program is partnership is the way to do it. The Wellington City Council cannot solve these complex issues alone, but they also we can't realise the opportunity alone. We need significant and to unlock significant investment into the city. So taking this partnership approach and using the foundations this program has set is the way to get there. So what we're thinking about in the discussions that we've had with our Pōneke Promise partners and that came through in the evaluation is what does that evolution look like? And that yes, while safety will absolutely remain as a focus PO, it's also how we increase densification in the city, how we attract more people, how we solve congestion, how do we make it more beautiful in a space that people want to hang out, more green spaces, more lighting, more art. How do we tell the story of our city and that identity of a city from a cultural perspective, and it's a place that everyone feels welcome and everyone feels that they belong. So while yes, safety is an important part to I guess what would be a new central city plan and strategy, we need to also include other partners in order to activate that broader plan. I mean, ultimately, as a safer city, people are a factor to unlock that safer city as well, and we need to attract different audiences into the city. So 2.0, in true partnership, we will be then developing that plan in partnership. Oh, and we thought, rather than wait for a new strategy, we would get started in a way. So Prak, our new Central City Manager, and Clara, together with internal and external partners, have been working on the Courtney Place cleanup, which is scheduled for June the 19th. We've been working along, and they've been busy meeting with literally every business along that precinct, working out what the city can do in terms of cleaning that area. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to those new pavers that the Golden Mile will bring. But as well as, and things like we'll be water blasting and awnings, we've got on Resine, who is a wonderful local company who are sponsoring us with a whole lot of paint. And we'll be, so we're getting permission also from property owners to repaint facades, to replace some broken signage. We're putting up some new fabulous creative hoardings. So rather than wait 3 years for that transformation to occur, we need to do stuff now. And that's, again, if you look at Pōneke Promise, what's been successful is we've had a license to do all of that work. We've done so much stuff. So so get your high-vis ready, team.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I sense that there's some people who do need to leave. So we'll open up for any partai.
Cool. And just a reminder, councillors in Manuhiri, that this session is live streamed as well, just as we hold the discussions. Councillor Paul.
Yay, so exciting. Love this mahi. My question is, how can we expand this into the suburbs who, have their own kind of distinct challenges, and how do we stop it losing its discrete kind of safety focus too? Because I get that it's part of the wider city transformation, but I feel like there has to be a real focus on this is about ending sexual violence, then we have to keep that focus and not let it get lost amongst other things.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just missed the first part of your question around the suburbs.
So, I guess I'm thinking about how this is expanding and growing as a program, and I'm thinking, how do we keep that discrete focus, but also how can we expand this into the suburbs as a response to particular challenges that particular suburbs have?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And we spend a lot of time, and Jala is here and can talk to it some more perhaps, but we spend a lot of time making sure that that the 2.0 version of Pōneke Promise has got that sexual harm prevention embedded in the rollout of what that looks like. Jala, did you want to talk at all around the strategy and action plan?
Kia ora. I'm Jala, I'm the Sexual Violence Prevention Lead. In terms of the embedding in the kind of Pōneke Promise 2.0, one of the strategies that we're taking is a strong alignment with the central government's brand new systems approach to prevention. So it kind of looks at building and embedding a prevention infrastructure across lots of different parts of what governs a society. Lots of different types of prevention and a really holistic kind of focus, which intersects really well with the Pōneke Promise program and the holistic understanding of safety that the program is using. So I think that's kind of our key way of doing that embeddedness, and then looking to use those kind of cross-city systems to do that expansion out to the suburbs.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Just on top of that, Pātai, another one, is there in 2.0 a capacity already built in to roll out to the suburbs, or is that maybe going to be looking at a new level of service that...
I think that might be a new level of service. We haven't started to think about the suburbs, but what we are doing in 2.0 is around a precinct model, so looking at more of a place specific. So the first precinct with the central city manager is going to be looking at Courtney Place, and I think that model of how we look at a smaller area, so the Pōneke Promise area has been a large part of our central city, so actually coming to a smaller area, there might be learnings there that we can share to suburbs in future.
Cool. I can see Councillor Chung next, and then Fern.
Thanks very much for this. I'm very pleased to see how things are going. I've been very interested in following this program for a long time. I see one of my main reasons for coming into council was actually to help people. And what I've been coming across is groups of people who are too scared to walk out at night. They say that they come outside and they get abused, they get slurs made at them. And so I've reported to this police. I've been working with the community constables, with 5 to 7 community constables, talking about how we can actually fix this problem. I actually went out with them last week because I thought that maybe they're just afraid to go out, and maybe because they're not sort of born in New Zealand and they're afraid of the environment and the atmosphere.
Councillor
But
Chung, sorry,
I actually went out with them and
Councillor
I got
Chung,
abused.
sorry,
So
if we could
what
just keep to Pātai, just because we're time sensitive.
Yeah, okay, so what I want to see is how do we actually make these people freer, and how do we make them feel more comfortable about going outside? And so it just seems to be happening. One of the businesses, you're talking about looking after businesses. I went to see a business last weekend, and they're closing down at the end of this month, and they said that the reason why they're closing down is that they get abused, they get people coming in.
Can we just if you could get to your questions?
Okay, so what I want to know is how can we actually help these businesses more?
There's a number of points there in your comments that I'll try to address, but again, if I remind you of that Batman slide, we are not the police, but we are, as you can see, we are putting together the levers that we can play within to try to address some of these really challenging topics. When it comes to creating a space that is designed so that people are safer, like what we've done in the changes to Dixon Street, we've done that. So we've looked at ways that we can make sure that there are lines of sight to activity in the park. There's community patrols that are connected with the police, that they work with now with our CCTV camera base and our Hapaaki team. And with regards to the business, they check in on the retail, they do their best to check in and form a relationship with the retailers in the different spaces and areas, especially down the Pōneke Promise area that we focused on initially. They check in and have a relationship with the shop owners there, and of course the de-escalation training that we talked about before. So there's no one way of kind of landing in the middle of these really difficult conflicting situations and sort of reprimanding people who are potentially wanting to do harm. But there are different ways that we can try to prevent that, and that's what we're focused on doing.
Councillor Foon.
Kia ora, thank you for the mahi. It's just so appreciated, and it is very comforting. But I must say that being on our street still doesn't feel very comforting. Yeah, and I must say I'm pretty heartbroken in Newtown at the moment. And so the question is around the smaller communities, but I am seeing more people sleeping on the street, and the community feels deeply unsettled. So I do have a focus on Newtown because I'm seeing it every day. So the question is there more hapaiaki and police focus on our streets so that we can support what's going on? And even our communities, it feels like they need more help in terms of outreach.
I wonder, well, I can't speak to the police question right now, but we can come back to that if you'd
That'd
like.
be good, yeah.
Murray or Stephen, did you want to try to address that at all?
Obviously, Newtown's in a particularly difficult point just at the moment, and the pressure that's come on over the last couple of weeks as a consequence of Loafers Lodge is difficult. But I don't think you're wrong. I just think, and this isn't a failure of anything except our economic circumstances, and we're seeing people struggle at the moment enormously, and the consequence of that is that those who are struggling the most end up in the worst situation.
Yeah.
So the responsibility sits with all of us, and I mean all of us, as citizens, as community agencies, as central and local government to do what we can. Is there enough wraparound support? There's a lot of support for people. Some are more willing than others to take advantage of that, and but we continue to do what we can.
Kia ora, thank you. I have a couple more partai, or do you want me to hurry up? Maybe one more partai?
One more.
Yeah, just thank you for Chris for the eyes on. The question I have is, what response and feedback are the retail community giving about the program? So are they understanding the more holistic approach that we are taking?
Oh, yes, Councillor Foon. So, look, there has been very strong engagement. This is something that touches every business, particular concern around their staff, but also around the reputational challenges that this brings to Wellington and our suburban centres. So I can tell you that the Eyes On touches all of the suburban centres, and that training that we've been doing has included the likes of Tawa, Newtown, Kilburnie, Karori. So that has been able to reach into those areas very effectively, particularly around some of the activity that's been going on that does happen across. People are quite mobile now. But businesses are particularly concerned. That hasn't changed, I don't think. In fact, in some cases it has got worse. But it's not unique to Wellington. This is happening across our region and across our country and overseas as well.
And so, in Central City, they're understanding that, like they're getting that whole picture?
I think some have become numbed and desensitised to this. You know, when we've had our teams in these streets, there are areas that haven't been safe. We've witnessed those kind of extreme behaviours, threatening behaviours. You know, the one challenge that we have is we don't have some of these property owners that are hosting these facilities around the table. That is a real issue that we have.
Yeah.
Because if we have hotels, they're responsible for their guests. If we have employers, they're responsible for their people. In this situation where we have property owners that are large hosts to certain cohorts, we need to make sure they're around this table and they have those same responsibilities as well.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Councillor Pennant.
Thank you for all your work, and it's great to see so many people collaborating. My question just is around naming problems accurately, and I've raised this with you before, and I'll just reflect in the light of the Mama Hooch stuff, which is just so shocking. misogyny is our problem, and control of women particularly, and children, and then when we talk about our homeless population, yeah, so there are very, very, very deep-seated problems. And so I guess I'm just, look, I know you've got to do some practical stuff now, but whether we can move a bit more deeply into that space, because we can put all the lighting up, we can put all the bar education up, and it will not stop, usually men, attacking. And also, I am, as an inner city person, this is my backyard, I still do feel kind of safe, but I do recognise there are some people that don't have that privilege. Thanks.
So I would say that, just to address that question, is that that is something that's on our minds. And again, I won't call Jala back up here, but we are doing a lot of work in that space to look at ways that we can enhance the strategy for sexual harm prevention and the action plan that will flow out of that. Yeah.
Councillor Abdurrahman.
Cool. Thank you, Tim. My only question would be, when it comes to reporting, you just touched base on some of them, how you say, from 100-something now decreasing the harm. Do we have any other areas, example, when it comes to homelessness, how many people we helped, and the scope of those things, how exactly, something that we can see and we can touch it. I think this is something really big, and this new initiative as well. 2 years is not much. So
I don't want to go too deep into that, because there is a briefing on our homelessness approach in the next couple of days. Would it be okay if we address that question there, or I could possibly invite Stephen to come back and talk about that? But we will have a fuller briefing on homelessness and the ways that we're working on our outreach in that space in the next few days.
This isn't just.
This is separate to our so Pōneke Promise is a separate program to our homelessness outreach piece of work.
And we will have a paper on the housing action plan coming to TAM's committee next week. So, and then there's more actions in a whole section around homelessness.
Doing so many things. Sorry.
Circling back round to Deputy Mayor Foon.
Probably just an obvious one, but just want to check in. We had a good hui with our Takai Here partners yesterday, and this area is they care about it deeply, and so just how are we working alongside them for version part 2?
Very closely for every version of this mahi. And again, so what I love about Takai Here is that there's instant partnership and this kind of collaboration. So as you saw the slides before, we've got the mana whenua collaboration and co-design work that's recently, and I was hoping that Holden would be around this table to speak to that, because they had a number of outcomes that they've just sent through that we're working through, which will inform the next program of work, or this next version of work. And again, it's around strengthening that partnership and coordination, and we saw that with Kara and Murray and our people here when we took an approach to the emergency housing review with central government, that we sort of got our ducks lined up in a row and then presented to central government on sort of what's important to us here. So Takahere is definitely, again, a key to this work being delivered and being successful.
Mm-hmm. Probably the meaty question is around funding. So I'm assuming that the money we've got will take us through to LTP.
End of LTP, yeah.
And then we'll be looking at a next funding round.
Yes.
Is there a plan to go forward, I guess?
Well, I think it will be, and Anna can expand on this possibly with regards to the way that we're rolling out Pōneke Promise 2.0, but
if trying to be clever and use the funds that we already do have to enable and activate the work, so particularly the City Growth Fund, and looking at how that can be used to enable more activities and more initiatives without burdening rates.
Councillor Wendetta has a question online.
Oh, cool.
Oh, perfect.
Kia ora, everyone. Hey, thank you for this really exciting mahi. Just wondering about some of those crime prevention through urban design principles and wanting to ensure that rough sleepers aren't being victimized by some of the design choices we make. Are we ensuring that when we do install this infrastructure, that our rough sleeping community isn't being negatively affected?
Absolutely. And I could ask Charlotta, do you want to speak on that at all? Or is that okay? Are you okay with that?
Hi, I'm Charlotta Hyde. I'm in the Urban Regeneration and Design team, project manager for urban design upgrades in the Pōneke Promise. Yeah, we're definitely not just using urban design to design people out of the space. We're designing to encourage everyone to use the space. And that's at the core of SEPTED principles, is that, it's not to restrict use, it's to actually get more people onto the street, get more people into our public spaces, and that's more eyes on the street to decrease feelings of unsafe or...
So that everybody can use them and be safe.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Ka pai toi mahi, I just want to extend a really warm thank you for all of the service you have all done for many decades in Wellington, but just a huge acknowledgement. And I know that we as a council can be really, really proud of the amount of work that's gone into harm reduction. And I'm just personally super proud and inspired by the amount of relationships that have been able to form around reducing harm in the city and working with people on the front line and those most affected. So I just a massive ngā mihi to you all. Thank you. We are at the end of our time here today. Once again, huge thank you to everyone for coming in as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.